I'm installing bass shakers underneath this floor. Stop. You may have seen in my last video, I turned this wall into a speaker. The wall itself is a speaker. I installed some audio exciters behind that wall. If you want to take a closer look at that video, just click right here and that'll take you to that video so you can see how I turned that wall into a speaker. However, as great as this wall sounds, it does lack bass. The audio exciters that I put in there are known when they vibrate a surface to lack a little bit of low-end punch. So I knew from the very beginning that I was going to add a subwoofer, and that's what you just heard. This system is running with a subwoofer, and let me say, it sounds fantastic. I am more than pleased with the sound of this system, with the sound of this wall. I'm going to paint it. By the way, it's not quite finished. Just have to add some paint, but it's not going to change the sound. What you heard is the way that system's going to sound. Or is it going to sound better with some bass shakers? I don't know. Let's find out. The reason this video exists is because a couple of viewers who saw me build this wall, saw me turn the wall into a speaker itself, did comment on those videos saying, hey, why didn't you install bass shakers inside the wall? And the truth is, I probably should have. I owned these bass shakers when I did that project. I own quite a few bass shakers, and it is a great idea. And perhaps I could have, perhaps I should have, but what I still can do is mount bass shakers underneath this floor, and I think it's going to have the same effect. The truth is, underneath this is an unfinished basement, and I have absolute access to the floor joists. So I'm going to stick probably these. I own 4 of these Messina Electronics bass shakers. They're from the early 2000s. They're not made anymore, so I'm not going to tell you too much about this bass shaker. It is an amplified system. It comes with an amplifier. I have 4 of these and 4 amplifiers, and I got to put some use to them, so what a great project to use them in. Stick around to the end of the video though, because I'm going to take you through the Parts Express catalog and show you the many different bass shaker options. In fact, I got these Aura sound bass shakers in the early 90s from Parts Express before they were ever online. And I still have them today, and I absolutely love them. And Parts Express has many, many more bass shaker options today. So stick around to the end of the video and we'll look at some of those options available from Parts Express. But right now, let's head downstairs and get these mounted to the floor joist. Okay, well, I've got one mounted here, you see, to this joist. They came with band clamps, or what often are called hose clamps, and it's just meant to go around like this and you tighten it up. However, I'm concerned because they shake this way. I was concerned that they would over time simply shake loose. So what I did is I wrapped some Gorilla Tape around. So as I tighten the hose clamp, it would squish into itself and provide a better grip so it doesn't slip out of its mount. It is meant to vibrate after all. That's its sole job. And I've got another one right here. I'm going to put this one in to its hose clamps, and I've put them on 2 different joists just to increase the surface area of the floor that it's shaking. Of course, you're going to want to make sure that these are wired in wired in phase. Let's get this one mounted. I have them up tight to the floor itself. They touch the floor above. I'm a little concerned that it may cause vibration noises. There's a lot of screwing involved here. Just turn and turn and turn this hose clamp. The hose clamps are way bigger than they needed to be. Yeah, you know, these are meant to vibrate the floor and not be heard necessarily. It is obviously designed mostly to produce bass that you feel as opposed to bass that you hear. Of course, you're going to hear some of the bass, but what you don't want to hear is vibration. So there's a chance, because this is in fact touching the floor above, that there might be some vibration noise, not associated with the music, in which case I'll just back them off a bit. Maybe put a piece of rubber in between here and the floor. There's a second hose clamp. I won't waste your time, but I've got 2 of these bass shakers installed on 2 different joists. They're going to be wired in phase with 2 separate amplifiers from the sub out from the wall. Let me get this wired up. We'll go back upstairs and hear what we're dealing with. Stop. Well, it's working. And my first impression, first off, this was way more work than I thought it would be. Only largely because the amplifiers didn't work. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I used these Messina bass shakers that I bought in early 2000. I have 4 of them. They're powered. They come with an amp each. And this was the problem. Each amp comes with a remote control. This plugs into the amp. And this is ultimately your volume for your bass shaker. They're 20 years old. They've been in storage for 20 years. The amps are fine. All 4 amps seem to be fine. All 4 bass shakers seem to be fine. But something's gone goofy with these controls. If you look closely, there's inputs in the controls. So the amps have inputs, and that's how I'm using them. I'm sub out from the wall amp into the sub in of the amplifier. But this Messina system has additional inputs, so you could plug other things into it. And I think that's the problem with these remote controls. This one is faulty. I think it sees something plugged in, and it's essentially no signal. When I unplug this DIN style connector from the back of the amplifier, it doesn't see the controller, and the amp works and the bass shaker works at full volume. Way too much. You need the control to be able to turn this thing down. Let me say, I've got, because I could only find one of these controls out of the 4 that worked, I've got 1 amp powering 2 of those shakers in parallel. And this is just my early findings, my early reactions. It's too much. I think it might be too much. Part of the solution, an absolute solution, might be stepping down in size to these Aura bass shakers. These are much smaller, much less force. I have to turn these things down. The result is impressive. If you're just looking to impress yourself, the results are impressive. The wall sounds great, but initial reactions before I fine-tune this thing, it might be too much. Stay tuned. You might see me mounting these in place, or maybe I'll order something else from Parts Express. Let's play some more and see how this goes. Of course, this is royalty-free music. There's not a lot of bass right here, right now, but here comes the bass. Oh, it's the end of the song. Let's there we go. Where's the bass? There it is. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can feel that. It sounds good. It sounds great, but it's almost. Can you hear that? Let me bring the microphone closer to the wall. It might be too much. Stay tuned. I may fine tune this thing. We'll listen to it again. And as I mentioned in my previous video, I'm going to have some friends over and show them for the first time and get some honest reaction from them. And of course, I'm not going to tell them about the bass shakers in the floor. I'm not going to tell my wife about the bass shakers in the floor. But stick around. Subscribe if you want updates on this wall and on this floor and what I'm going to do next. And as I mentioned, stick around because now that being the end of this video, I'm going to take you on to the Parts Express website and we'll take a closer look at some of the bass shaker options that might be better for you and might be better for this project. Let's take a look. All right, like I said, I had a lot more challenges getting that to work than it needed to be. And I think a large part of that was the fact that I was using 20-year-old amplifiers and controllers and bass shakers. The professionals down at Parts Express, of course, have a wide selection of bass shakers and amplifiers and kits to choose from, and that's probably what I'm going to do next. But let me tell you the history of my relationship with Parts Express. It goes back to when I first bought those Aura bass shakers, probably back in 1992, before the internet existed. One thing that they did and still do is, well, I don't know if they still do this, but every time you place an order, you get their most current sales flyer in your shipment. And they allowed you to sign up to get their sales flyer mailed to you once a month. And I live in Canada, but they won't ship, not in 1992 and still not now. They won't ship their sales flyer to Canada on a monthly basis. So what I did in 1992 is I routinely would drive across the US border and I got myself a US postal box in a small town called Sumas, Washington, and I paid for a postal box for years just so I could get their monthly sales flyer. And it wasn't so much about catching sales, it was more about seeing what was new in tech. And their sales flyer has all kinds of tech. Now, of course, being the advent of the internet, you can sign up online and they'll send you their sales flyer right to your inbox regularly. Here's this month's sales flyer. There's no shortage of very cool things. Of course, everything Parts Express sells, from speaker components to amplifiers, digital amplifiers. This is a remarkable little amplifier, a Class D 2.1 amplifier, so 50 watts, I believe, is 50 watts to 2 channels, and a third channel of 100 watts to a subwoofer, which may be exactly what this system needs. In-wall speakers, which I have behind me. I'm a big in-wall fan. You've heard me talk about in-walls in my previous channels. It was the coolness of this sales flyer that I had to get, which is why I subscribed, which is why I got a US postal box and drove down to the US once a month so I could get my hands on this thing. Now I just get it to my inbox. They still won't send it to Canada though. Looking at the Parts Express website, you can see here that they have all kinds of bass shakers. Here's a Dayton Audio bass shaker. This is the larger version. So this is the Aura bass shaker. This is the big brother to the Aura bass shaker that I bought in 1992 from Parts Express. Looking at their website, they don't seem to sell the small Aura bass shaker that I'm using, well, that I'm not using, that perhaps I should have used today, but they do still sell the big brother. And it looks like Dayton Audio themselves are making their own version of the Aura bass shaker for a lot less money. 59 bucks is a great deal. 44 bucks even better for that bass shaker, and that may very well be the solution to this floor. And of course, they have smaller ones. Clark Synthesis bass shakers. And here's essentially what I bought in early 2000, what I just installed into my floor, what just failed on me. It was a kit, a digital amplifier with 2 bass shakers, $299. This is exactly, essentially what I just installed, and had hours of frustration. I should have just bought this one. But out of the 4, I finally got one that's working for me. Here's an I-beam, the Sonic Immersion I-beam tactile transducer bass shaker. This is a lot of the same principle of the one that I just installed, where you actually have a weight that slides back and forth on a rail system. Very cool. But the pimp of all bass shakers, there's Butt Kicker, of course, but hands down the coolest bass shaker I've always wanted to get my hands on. Let's look at this Clark Synthesis bass shaker, the TST 429 Platinum. They have a gold and they have a silver line, but this here is the platinum standard. Originally developed for military training simulators. This produces more force than any other bass shaker ever made. This thing is incredible, and I can only imagine, because I'm getting too much force from what I just installed, I can only imagine how much force this thing produces, and I would love to get my hands on it. But there you have it. As you see, Parts Express has all kinds of bass shakers available. A lot of great solutions. Here's a 4-pack, here's a 4-pack, and a digital amplifier with a 4-pack of bass shakers, 4-pack of Aura Pro bass shakers. So we'll see how this floor turns out. We got some initial impressions here. It does seem like a little bit much, but I'll play with the settings and I'll keep you updated. So subscribe to the channel, give this a thumbs up if you like it. That helps give it get it recommended to other people looking for videos much like this. Stick around.